These are the two things which I understood first when I came to the Buddha's teaching, when I was looking for the truth. And they helped me to put things in perspective. Because even these two things, most people seem to forget in this world. They don't see how much they make themselves a slave for whatever the pleasure they are chasing after. And they don't see how they have to keep doing it and how it doesn't really last and how it is not really satisfying, as in the mind can't be satisfied. But people believe that it can be possible to do so. And maybe the first thing to understand is there seems to be a problem with that. But when you understand that, so as I said, the words I give to these two, so the three words I usually, this is how my teacher taught me, the three words which we can apply to these sufferings is, there's this sankhara dukkha, I think these have deeper meanings, but I have to contemplate on this more, but let's just keep it like this. This is the effort of cooking, right? That's hard work. Cooking, that means bringing together the causes to enjoy something. Does it not apply to every pleasure that we are engaged in? Even when we want to do as innocent things as to see our family, of course, we have to arrange the causes. So one person has to drive to the other. And I remember, now that I understand the Dhamma to some extent, I always reflect on the destiny of a mother. It's good to have your children around you when they are young, but once, as it is in my family's case, I am in Sri Lanka. My brother is yet in another country, which is not Germany, which is where our mother is. So how many days of the year does the mother get to experience having all her children with her? Isn't that what she always wants? It's good to have one. It's better to have two, more. And it's best if you have all of them. But how many days does in this case a mother get to experience having them all? Yes, when they're young, yes, it's true. And as a mother, the family is everything for us. But when the children grow up, they have their own family, and for them, and then that family will be everything for them, and the mother will only be something that you call once in a while, maybe every day for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But you have to call, and meanwhile the little one is running around in the bathtub, or it's running around and it might fall down, so you have not much time to talk with your mother as well. Especially if the mother always keeps asking the same questions. It gets boring as well. But for that mother, which is now a grandmother, she's at home without her children. She can only call and ask how are they, how are my grandchildren. But the only thing that moves in her world is what do you call that? From the clock, the thing that moves. That thing, but in bigger clocks, it makes a sound, right? So this doesn't make a sound, but in a big clock, it makes a sound. That's the only thing that remembers you that time is actually still passing. For some people, some people, elderly people, they face that destiny, right? Which is also the destiny of having spent so much effort out of good intentions and love for your children, sometimes, still they leave your house, you're alone, okay, maybe you have still your partner, but he might also die before you. It might happen. So I met a woman once, I might have shared this story with you, when I was delivering parcels, letters and packages in Germany. I met a woman who came down from the 5th floor down to the ground floor just to meet me. Me is what? A monk? No, at that time I was just a postman. But she wanted to speak with a postman because she had no one to speak to at all. For many weeks, there was no one. Because she called her daughter, she called her son, but they were very busy. So they talked with her for 5 minutes. In these 5 minutes, she was on cloud 9. But when the 5 minutes passed away, she went back into the emptiness of her apartment, which is where the only thing that moves is the timer on the clock. See, then can you not understand why, especially when I was I used to have this habit of having a walk when I was in Germany, after meal or in the evening, just to listen to the Dhamma or contemplate the Dhamma or just to exercise my body as well. And I used to come across many senior homes. So we have some of them near my house, my family's home in Germany. There are senior homes. So you can see these are lovely buildings, nicely made. And in Christmas times, the decoration is very, very beautiful. Christmas trees and colorful, what we call them, the orbs, which we put on the Christmas tree. Everything is nice. Of course, every person who lives there feels good, pleasant around these things. And you can have each other, you can share and talk with others who are in your same situations like you, but it's not the same as having a family. As well as, at the end of the day, when you look into the windows, when I looked into the windows, I saw people doing mostly what? Watching TV. Why? Because that is the only thing which gives you the feeling that you are not alone. Just to hear someone talk, even if it is a random person on TV, at least someone talks. And I don't have to hear the ticking of the clock, because that is even worse. And when I see this, and I have seen this all my life, but I have never really seen it from that point of view. I have seen it, but I haven't seen it. I thought there's nothing wrong. But when I see it from this point of view, I see how much wrong is there. Not in what this person is doing, but why does this have to happen? Why did this have to happen to this person? Isn't there a way to stop this from happening? As in, do we have to end up like this? I'm not saying that this is bad. This person, most people in this situation, they will, when it comes to their body, they have everything they need. There's a person who comes and cleans after them, cleans the room. When they have to go to the toilet and if they have problems walking, somebody will help them. If they have diapers, somebody will clean them every day. It might not be their son, might not be their daughter, it might just be a Polish, Romanian, Hungarian, or some other East European country. These jobs are not done by German people. They are always done by some mostly women coming from East European countries who have, for them it's good money, and they do that. So let's say the Polish nurse or Polish cleaning lady, she will change the diapers. But of course you can understand She will do it because it's her duty. She will do it professionally, but she's not helping her mother, right? So does she earn any merits? No. And as well as, does she really care at the end of the day? No, she doesn't care. So that means you're surrounded by people, all the other people in your age with whom you can play bingo and all the other games that you play just to entertain your mind. And then if you're not spending time with them, you can watch TV, which is also entertainment. But these are all very shallow forms of entertainment. And although you get what you want, actually deep down the love that we all want and this satisfaction is not there. So I started to see this. So let's come back to this. So the sankhara dukkha, in this case, this person has lived a life. A life means it's like this. It is something that arises and passes away. It might take 80 years, 90 years, 100 years. It might take a year or two. It doesn't matter, whatever that arises and passes away, we can look at it. Let's look our life. So there was a lot of sankhara dukkha, which means what? See, to have a family takes a lot of work. You have to find the right partner. You have to be lucky enough that your body is appropriately functioning, and that partner should also be willing to want to have a family, and his body should be properly functioning. Even these things for sometimes are people that causes years and years of stress just to cross these boundaries, isn't it? Some people, they have to find other ways of having a family because that is not what works. Because these are also conditions you have to arrange. So you can now understand even that. Even if you hadn't had these problems, how lucky are you that you are blessed with the opportunity to have a child, because some people can't. Anyways, but it takes a lot of work and conditions. Then once you find the right partner, see, we all the work we have put in all this life to make it happen is one, right? To bring it to arise is one. Then when it is there, to maintain what is there. Maintaining what is there means washing clothes, cooking, picking up the child from wherever he or she is, kindergarten, friends, sometimes staying long at a friend's place until the night is already started, and you don't want this child to go home to you alone, because in the dark what will happen? So you have to drive there and bringing the child to the hospital in the night. I mean, these are all great things we have done with good intentions. Unfortunately, most of us, we haven't earned any merits from doing so, because it is something we have done for our children. So it's a great thing, but that is not something that earns us much merit, as the Buddha said. However, we have maintained a lot, and then at the end of the day, we come back to viparinama dukkha, which is this part. Which is simply the state of this elderly woman that I talked to you about, who was there in her apartment and who was lonely, obviously, And to do something, to come out of this loneliness, what did she do? She went up from the 5th floor to the ground floor just to talk to me. Isn't this dangerous? She was not the most vital person in the world anymore. So going from up there to down there, she might have slipped. And it's the staircase, so it is a risk. But she did it nevertheless because she really needed someone to talk to. And I talked to her. I could do what I could do. For 10 minutes, for 15 minutes. I didn't even have that time. But somehow you can't just go. So I talked with her for that time, but that's all I could do at that moment. But I realized what her problem is, and I wish that may she come out of this problem. As in what? What does that mean? What does it mean to come out of this problem? If you ask a normal person, what will he or she say? If you ask a normal German, he or she will say, the problem is solved if you give her a TV. Really? Or the problem is solved if you give her a new husband, a second husband. Or maybe, why don't the children, for God's sake, why don't they take her and care for her? Why doesn't she live with them? That is something a Polish person would do. I mean, I'm just talking from my categories here. So a German person would maybe give a TV or put her into the senior care home. So now I'm generalizing, not all Germans are like that as well. I'm just making, so that might happen. A Polish person might, and Sri Lankan, I think also would do what? Everyone would ask the question, can't the children take care of her? That is so unhumane. Why doesn't the children take her to them? So then that is the solution for most people in this society, in the Polish or in the Sri Lankan society. And now I ask you, is this the solution? I mean, hasn't she done this all her life? She associated her children. Good. But then what was the result of that? Did she achieve anything? Right? So it's good. And of course it's even better if we understand that in order, so let's say, let's say we are not yet in that situation, right? We are not in that situation where we are so now we have still something, let's say we have some time so that we can try to avoid this from happening. What would we do? I tell you what a German person would do. An average German person would do what to avoid becoming like this grandmother. This German person would save some money. Why? Because then at least, if he's old and if his husband or wife is no longer alive, if the children are living somewhere else, you have money so that you can afford to go to a senior care home. Because there you have good food, TV, and people around you. And therefore, this person would earn a lot of money to be safe from being alone when you're old. That's what most people will do. Merits? What is merits? I don't know. They don't know about that. Some people don't believe in merits. People believe only in the value of money. Right? So, okay. Again, a better way is to understand that money doesn't really bring you anything. Money doesn't give you any guarantee, because with money, at the end of the day, still you need the merits is what make it happen, right? So Whether you're able to have the money or not depends on your merits. Whether you can buy something from that money or not depends on your merits. The money doesn't. Can the money bring you from here to Australia? That's what people think. If I have money, I can take a plane and go to Australia, isn't it? Well, just because you have money doesn't mean that when you're looking online for a flight that there will be a flight. Sometimes there might not be a flight, because when there's a war in the world, there might be no way to fly even though you have money. Which means simply now now is a time when the demerits of the people come to fruition, right? So you can't take it for granted that just because you have money you can book a flight. No, because if you don't have the merits, you won't be able to find a flight. And then if you take a flight, let's say you are able to book the flight, and you are even able to board the flight, who's going to tell you that you're going to arrive where you want to go? You might even fall into the sea. So is money going to save you from that? No, money can't save you even from that. Your merits can. Because money is ultimately just a way to attract your merits. But if you don't have merits, money won't be able to buy you anything. Right? So, understanding that, it is of course much better to realize that as long as I am still vital, as I still have energy in my body, as I'm still able to help others, why don't I do that so that when I need help, somebody will be able to help me? This is something that young people especially have to learn, but we all have to learn it in whichever part of the lives we are. We all have to learn that earning merits is the only way, the real way to basically advance, to be safe, right? So that means in order to not end up because ultimately she ended up in this way, this I'm talking about this elderly grandmother who was there in her apartment because lack of merits. So in order to avoid this from happening, we should earn merit as much as we can. So, of course, merits can be twofold. Some people, even when raising their children, they are not aware of the fact that how they treat their children will also make an impact on whether their children are ever going to give anything back to them or not, right? So even that depends, depending on how you raise them and whether you care really for them or not. Sometimes that also depends. So, okay, now we understood. Merits are also very important. And now I digressed, actually. I wanted to explain this point of the dukkha's. But before that, I want to give one last example to make that comes relating to merits. I don't know whether I gave this example in here, but this has helped me a lot to make sense of how we should live our lives properly in relation to the Dhamma as well. So, when you take a bus driver, or just about any ordinary person doing any ordinary job, when you're just driving your bus, aren't you doing a lot of good? I mean, actually take any job around you. being a shop owner, working in a hospital, working in an office. Isn't that normally, I'm saying unless you're trafficking drugs, normally most of the jobs are really good jobs, which means there's a big service for people. Being a driver, for example, isn't that a great job? Yes, because you're doing a lot of good. There are people who have this, so you're saving energy from people who don't have to walk. So as a bus driver, for example, there's an old lady who wants to go to the city center to buy her groceries or buy her shoppings. See, if you don't drive her, she would have to walk. So by driving her, you're doing a lot of good. But see, the problem is just doing it won't earn you any merits, right? So do you think an average bus driver, just because he drives people to the city, is his life ever going to improve? Or like take a trishaw driver, like trishaw driver, he's doing a lot of, a taxi driver, they're doing a lot of good, they're driving people around, but is his life going to ever improve just by doing that? No, not necessarily, because what's the mindset of a normal taxi driver? I'm doing this to earn money so that I can feed my family and do the things I like to do, and that's it. Sometimes if the clients sometimes when there's an old lady who wants to take the taxi, you're even annoyed. Oh, again, I have to get off my car and help her to get into the car, and she takes so long and so on. So sometimes we even acquire demerits being annoyed about the customers we have. So that can happen. So that means life is never going to improve. We are also not earning any merits, although we are doing so much good. As in, the action itself is a good one. But the merits doesn't come from doing. Now let's say a person understands this and understands that merit comes from our mind or from our intentions. So then what should this person do? Now as a bus driver you can think, see, this lady, she wants to go to the city. I can bring her to the city now, and she doesn't have to walk, which means her body will have more strength. I'm giving her the ability to be maybe more healthy, as well as she doesn't have to go through all the stress of finding another transport. So I'm saving her from mental stress, I'm saving her from bodily discomfort, and I'm saving her time. So may I help her to do these things. So when we do it with that intention, right? So there's a bus driver who simply thinks, I'm here to do a service. Let me help this grandmother do these 3 things. So may she be able to be free from stress, be free from bodily discomfort, and save time. So now you're earning merits. How about the child that you're transporting from school home? See, if you can take this child home, the parents don't have to pick the child up from school. I'm just giving examples. So this is just an example. So the parents don't have to, sometimes the parents, they are busy because they have to be at work, because they need to earn money for the family. So by me bringing the child home by bus, the family, the parents, the mother, the father, they can do the job. They don't have to pick the child up, which helps the family to have the money that they need to live a harmonious family life. So when you start thinking like this, what are you actually giving? Harmony for the whole family. So the action never changed, but your mindset has changed. And when you change that mindset, what happens to you? You will start to have so much joy, even driving a bus, even driving a trishaw. Can be a very fulfilling job if you start having that right perspective. And if you do it simply to serve and to do things for the others, for other people, right? But funnily enough, as I think I gave similar examples in the past, funnily enough, a trishaw driver might, just an ordinary person might, he's driving around so many mothers and fathers and children and daughters and sons every day from A to B, but all the while that happens, where is his mind? His mind is with his son, his daughter, his wife, his mother. So can he enjoy? Does he do it happily? He can't enjoy because his mind is not at the present moment. His mind is at home. So he doesn't earn any merits. He's not doing it happily, which means the customers also feel subtly enough, don't you feel when people really like to serve you or not? You can feel it. And in your body language, in the body language of people, you feel whether they're doing it simply because of their job or because they really sincerely want to serve you in this moment. You can feel it. But the moment our mind is somewhere else, our body automatically reflects this to the outside. So in other words, people will feel that you are not there for them. Yes, you're doing your job and they will say thank you and they will pay the money and you will have your money and you will go home, but nothing will change, right? You will have your money and it's not much. As a trishaw driver, it's not much, and you have many reasons to complain. That's what people always have, many reasons to complain. Nothing will ever change. No merits earned. And now if we take the bigger picture now into play, which is something now we can open up here, we can even say, after having this for a full life, worked your socks off for your family or for other people driving them around, what's the next destination? Heaven? Unfortunately, not even that. Because you haven't earned any merits, but all the grandmothers who were so slow in coming into your trishaw or into your bus, and every angry thought about them, what has they only given you what? Earned you lots of demerits. Because insulting a human being is a big demerit. Because it's a human being after all, a very valuable life. That you can't, even a Vachisankara is a big sin. Big means it's not something we should risk. Right? So that is the tragedy of samsara, unfortunately. So, coming back to this, so then, now I forgot. Now we come to the tragedy of samsara. Now we understand, or the more we understand, the value of nibbana, you can even do more than what I told you at the end. So a bus driver who's doing what I told you, what is he giving? Comfort to elderly ladies or men for that matter, doesn't matter. So what he will get back is that. So he will get also comfort. If you are giving something, if you're giving harmony to a family, if that's why you do it, so this is the important thing, if that is why you do it, that is what you will get back. You will get back harmony somehow, for harmony. So if you take a piece of trash and you put it into the bin, you will get, and you do it because you want others to be happy about clean place. You want others feel good about a good environment. You want to save the environment. Then you will always be able to associate places which are very harmonious and clean and sustainable, maybe. Right? So this is where you will be able to go. This is where what you will get back. But it's still a place after all in this world, right? So you will have a place in this world where you will have to live. and you'll be somewhere. So you will be, and you will be somewhere. So if somebody picks up trash because he wants the environment to be clean, chances are, so for example, if a person in, let's say in Bangladesh, I saw some documentaries, and some of the rivers in Bangladesh are so dirty, right? I mean, the garment industry, producing the garment and clothes for the world, actually, for the Western countries and all over. So they're producing the garments, and sometimes children and so many young, innocent lives have to work their socks off all day and night to produce clothes that go to Western countries, and they earn not even half of the money that they need, just barely to survive. So they are suffering a lot. However, when you look at the rivers, how much chemicals are going into these rivers? These rivers are completely polluted. I mean, not in if I'm here in Sri Lanka, I mean, the river we have when you go to the monastery, it's like paradise. It's really clean, like, I don't know, so clean. So these are also because merits, and even these things are because of merits. The average person in Sri Lanka, he has a clean river. That is so rare in the world nowadays. I don't think it will last long in here as well. I mean, maybe in 300 years, or even that will be history in Sri Lanka as well. Who knows? It depends on merits and demerits ultimately. But the person in Bangladesh, so again, I don't know whether that is true for all people there. I'm not willing to generalize. I'm just saying that what I saw. These rivers are so dirty. That's also because of demerits, right? They don't even have clean water to drink. Sometimes they're drinking water with chemicals, and their body has some kind of diseases and all these things. But if a person there starts to, give in order to make the environment clean, well, one thing that will happen is either his environment gets clean and he will have a clean place to live, or he will be able to come to a place like maybe Sri Lanka or somewhere, which is because if you give a paradise, you will get paradise, right? So if you clean the environment, which means you make the environment a paradise, what will you get back? You will get to paradise. So this is how you can create your own paradise. By giving a paradise to the world. As an example, you pick up trash. So when you do it, so this is what I did. When I went to school, my teachers always told me climate change, climate change, climate change. This is like the mantra of today's times in Germany, let's say, the mantra, right? So I learned, okay, important. So I did. That's why when I wanted to travel around the world, I thought, I don't do it by airplane, I do it by bicycle. Why? It's good for the environment. Yeah, it's good. So I did it to save the environment. So that is a merit. It's a mundane merit, which means if you give a paradise, which is a place to live where you can exist, that's what you will get. Maybe that's why I'm in this paradise today. But you need to understand, a place to live is still a place to live. And if the Buddha would come, he would say, is there any place in this world which is at the end of the day not anicca, dukkha and anatta, which means it's a place and it has to be maintained. A paradise is also a manifestation. You have to maintain that. So you will have this. So even in a paradise, let's say, I think maybe sometimes Germans, they would dream to have a nice. I once saw the story of a French or English lady. She came to Sri Lanka and lived among the coconut trees and the palms and the beach, and I mean, a paradise for a German person. Everything is there. It's warm. You don't have to wear your rain jacket, your winter jacket. You can even sleep in a t-shirt. Even that is already huge comfort. I mean, maybe you are used to it since you're born, but for a German person, typically most of the months of the year, when you go outside your home, you have to wear a rain jacket or a winter jacket. You can't do it in a t-shirt. Only 2 months a year, 3 or 4 months a year, or 6, or maximum 6, 4 or 5 maybe. Other than that, you have to wear something. But in here, you can. So you can drink the water from the rivers. In Germany, you can't do that. You'll die. But you can at least go to the supermarket and find water there easily. So that's already good. That's something in Bangladesh, I don't think even there, sometimes old, and not old, but some poor people, they will have not even that ability. Not even clean water. The only thing they can drink is water from a river with chemicals, because they are so low on merits. But even having a house in Sri Lanka with your coconut trees and drinking the water from the river, and even your lovely wife and family there, I mean, I'm just giving example, and this is paradise. I mean, for a German person, this is a paradise. I mean, there's a story that when Adam was in heaven, right? And I think you know the story, because that's why it's called Adam's Peak, right? Because when Adam and Eve, when they made the first sin, when the sin happened in the world, God had to punish them. So what he had decided to do was, now I will ban you from paradise. So you are no longer allowed to be in paradise. Now, however, I will give you the best place which is close to paradise. The place that resembles paradise most. But it's not paradise. And that is Sri Lanka. That's why he put Adam on Adam. He made him land on Adam's Peak. That's how the story goes. I don't know if it is true, but it's a very good story. So it sort of suggests, and that's what people believe as well in Germany, paradise on earth must be somewhere in Sri Lanka or in the tropical regions, because everything, there's 10 kinds of fruits and 20 kinds of fruits and trees and so many interesting animals and water that you can drink from the rivers, and you can live in harmony with nature and things like that. But the thing is this, now this kind of paradise, I mean the having a nice harmonious house and coconut trees and drinking water from the river, that was always my desired life. I thought I want to live like that, until I found the Buddha's teaching. Because the Buddha said that is also not what you want. Why? Because you have this sankhara dukkha, right? What is that? So you have to climb up this tree to cut the coconut. If you don't do it yourself, then what? You have to pay someone who does it for you. So that is not fun. And water from the river, you need to go and get it. And you have to feed this body and keep this body healthy, which is also a lot of work. So there's a lot of sankhara dukkha. To maintain your body, your house, your property, your possessions, your family, because they all have this tendency to decay and die, as we all know. And yes, as I said, and now we come back to the beginning of the sermon, these are things which, seeing them, you'll be a bit more realistic in life, but the shocker of all of them is that in all of these things, there's not even an inch of happiness. I mean, coconut juice, as much as it is hard to get it, juice, or even if you do the milk, or it doesn't matter, whether you use the milk to make a curry or whether you drink the tembili juice and think yourself on paradise, the pleasure you're experiencing doesn't come from the temple. There's nothing in there. It's just an effect, which means there's nothing in any of these which you can call as happiness. So it is not that there is happiness, but it is very limited, lasting. The fact is there isn't anything in the first place. We have been indoctrinated. Our mind has been indoctrinated by the belief that there is such a thing called happiness in these things. And that's why we are, and that's why we have been going after them. That's why we have been vexing for them. And when we actually got them, the only thing we really felt was the relief of that vexation which was there in the mind. So there was nothing out there, which is now when we can understand, now coming to understand this point, we can actually start talking about what is this world and do I really want to stay here? Which is what I asked at the beginning, why Nibbana? But we can also rephrase this question, what is real paradise? So I think that's going to be the motto for this sermon. Now, let's come back to the story which came up already, the story of Adam and Eve. For a mundane, normal person, what he's looking for is not Nibbana, right? As in, even for many Buddhists, what they believe Nibbana is actually a place where you can go, where all the Buddhas are, and where you can also exist with them, or with... And then the story goes more, then sometimes people like to tell themselves, yeah, you can take your family as well. Right? And then, so that's how it happened. Because that's what we believe happiness is, right? So there are actually three kinds of things in this world. Let's start from God's point of view. In the story of Adam and Eve, God's point of view, there is such a thing called real happiness. Real paradise. Real paradise for God, okay? What is real happiness for God? Is it Sri Lanka? Close enough, but no. It is where God is. So in heaven, don't want to use heaven, but in where God is, you don't have to maintain anything. You don't have to work for anything. So you don't have this. And I forgot the third dukkha. I'm just going to write it down. Dukkha. So dukkha is, of course, the real suffering you experience, right? When actually you're suffering, when you're hungry, when your body has problems, when you get sick, when you lose someone you love. This is all dukkha. I mean, that is something everyone can understand, right? So all of these coupled with the realization that there isn't happiness. These are the only things which are there. And so, let's come back. What is real paradise? In real paradise, they say, you don't have to work hard for anything. Do you have to shower in real paradise? No. Do you have to... Are you getting hungry in real paradise? No. Do you have sadness in paradise? No. Fear? No. Desire? No. No problem whatsoever. Right? That is real paradise. So now we can understand, okay, as good as, so next closest to paradise for me would be a nice small house with coconut trees and a clean river and lots of fruits and a loving family. Let's say that would be closest to paradise, which is what God gave Adam. So this is where God is. It's a shame that nowadays, for some people, this paradise is somewhere in a big city with a lot of noise and a stressful job. But that's what people think. I mean, so that definition can change. So maybe some people say, no, that is not paradise. Maybe it is to go to some big city in the Western countries. Maybe that is paradise. So that is the paradise people think. So yeah, maybe for me it would be coconut trees somewhere and so on and so on. Nice cottage. So this is where Adam had to go. So this is a place in this world where you can live and enjoy so-called ashvada, pleasure, from these so-called pleasurable things. Right? That is what a mundane person, most people aspire to this, whether it is in Sri Lanka or in Australia or somewhere in Germany or in the USA or someone, but definitely not in Bangladesh. So that would be sorry, I don't want to discriminate. Bangladesh would be or it stands for where there's dirty rivers, when you have only this dukkha, right? Okay, so now this real paradise. So now to understand, it's actually a really great analogy to see that when this view was given to the mind, that happiness exists in these things. Happiness exists in this world. When this view came to the mind, when this view came to Adam and Eve. So the moment that the mind has accepted this view, pleasure exists in the outside world. What happened to the mind? What happens with the mind when it feels that? Wanting started. Until then, wanting wasn't there. Because there was not any reason to want anything. And actually all these are the same. All countries, all experiences are intrinsically the same until this view was given to the mind. Then there was good and bad. That's why they say the knowledge of good and bad came to Adam and Eve. And when they had the knowledge of good and bad, they lost paradise. So when this view called ignorance was given to the mind, wanting started. And when wanting started, what also starts with wanting? Vexation. So when vexation started, that's when paradise was lost. So this story in the Bible is actually very true if you understand it in terms of this, in terms of the Dhamma, where it is because of the ignorance, which means it's a wrong view which was given to the mind. So today I will go a bit deeper in explaining this ignorance as well, but first of all, the ignorance is the idea of there being pleasure in the world, or we will come to talk about this today as well, the idea of separation. The idea, and last week we talked about this as well. See, when you remember the story in the Bible, you see that there's a point when Adam and Eve recognize themselves as man and woman, right? Adam starts to realize that he's a man, and therefore he's not like Eve. That means he's different from her. And when he's different from her, then what was the next thought he got? He wanted to cover himself because he had this feeling of shame. So this feeling of shame came after he recognized that he was a man and that there are also something called women in this world. These two things exist. Because if everyone is a man, do you feel, if everyone is a woman, I mean, I don't know, but in Germany, when we go to the swimming pool, see, we have we are separating between men and women. So men have to dress up there, and women dress up there. But when you go to the man, when you go to one of them, I don't know what the women do. I've never been there, but I can tell you, men, generally speaking, they don't have any problem to show parts of their body when it's only man around them. They don't have the shame. In other words, when everyone is the same, you don't have shame, right? Shame happens when there's at least two different things. So, that being said, I mean, now there are also people who even when they are among the same gender, so even when there might be men who, even when they are among a lot of men, they don't want to expose parts of their body. Why that? Well, because at least don't they feel that there is me here and there's them there? So I'm showing my body, they can see a part of my body, they can see a part of my body. So isn't there also two different things? Them and me. Yes, we are all men. This is a man, I'm a man, but I'm not there. This is my body. And if they see my body, what will they think about it? Right? So, and the same happens for women as well. I mean, in our mind, there's a defilement, which, like when you look into the mirror, like, I mean, what is one of the worst ways? Now, I don't want to generalize, but see, there are countries where what in order to destroy a woman's life, what can a man do? He can take some kind of acid and throw it into that woman's face. Because there will be at least, because two things can happen then. One thing is, when others look at her, they will feel her to be very ugly. So no one will be interested in her anymore. That is something we can't control. People have all sorts of ideas about what is beautiful and ugly, right? But generally speaking, isn't this something really dangerous? I mean, people have a certain idea of what beautiful is. And if somebody distorts your face, no one will be interested in you anymore. Or it would be interested in that person. Guru Hamdo always gives this example. Even to us monks, he's telling us, don't you dare, before you give sermons, make sure that you don't have some kind of food sticking into your teeth from your dana or something like that, because it matters your impression as well as being shaved. I'm not going to talk about the sermon yesterday. There was a fun fact, you can listen to it yourself. And being shaved is important. Why? Because it'll irritate people. And so if I would sit here not being shaved, you wouldn't be able to focus on the Dhamma. Because why? Because in your mind there's a view, this is what is nice, this is what I want to see. And if you can't see that, it'll irritate you. And similar happens for a woman and man, both of course, when you have this acid thrown into your face. So others will maybe no longer be interested in you. I mean, I guess for a woman like this, honestly, if it is a young lady in her late teens, especially in countries where, not every family is rich, right? So for example, in some countries, I think they have nurtured this daughter for 20 years and they struggle to make ends meet, but now they finally hope that if I can marry her off to someone who has money, we can get some money for our family. I don't have to feed her anymore. I don't have to feed her, as well as we'll get some money to live by marrying her off to a good man. Now what happens? She's having acid in her face, so marrying her off? Never. Not going to happen. And have to feed her for the rest of our lives. So then for the whole family, it might be a disaster. So the whole family, the father, he might shout and he might kick the door and he might scream and he might try to find the one who did this and pay him a big lesson, because he has not only caused a lot of suffering to the girl, but even to the whole family. Actually, he hasn't caused any mental suffering to anyone, but people think so. Because that is all the hopes of expectations that get crushed in that moment. So, and of course now her own destiny, which is maybe the most important of all, she might have to face a life where wherever she goes, people will make strange faces. She will have a hard time making friends, maybe, and having people who love her. I mean, it might be hard, I don't know, it might not be, depends. So she has to live with all of that. So, and the point is this, now when she looks into her mirror, see, now we're going to talk a little bit about this deeper point, which is the concept of belonging. So I'm going to connect this, let's not forget this now. So we're talking about Adam and Eve and shame. So when Adam and Eve, when they ate from the forbidden apple, they got the knowledge of good and bad. And let me rephrase it in today's sermon and explain it to you as this. It is the knowledge of separation. Or, in other words, the concept of belonging now becomes reality. Because actually, we are going to explore this today in the time we have. There is no such thing called belonging in this world. Belonging is a complete illusion. Nothing in this world belongs. Other than to God, nothing belongs to anyone. Now, a God is not a person, otherwise it's also wrong. So God is not a person, God is nature, vipaka, anicca, right? But nothing belongs. Actually, in reality, nothing belongs. So, if I ask you, this pen, where does it belong to? See, don't you feel that it belongs? It belongs to, maybe not the Swaminahanse, but it belongs to the school. Your t-shirt belongs to? What a strange question. Obviously, it belongs to you. When you go down and look at the cars, there's one car which belongs to you, and the other cars belong to someone else. So, whatever you look at in this world, you can always say who it belongs to, who or what it belongs to, right? So even the piece of grass, let's say somewhere in a park, see, if there's a dog making a big pile, see, if it happens in your garden, would you ever complain? And if somebody comes and complains, can you run to the city council and complain? No, it's your garden, so whatever happens there happens. It would never upset you or anyone. Or anyone else. That is totally fine. But if somebody takes his dog and the dog makes a dump in public grass, then people say that's not true, that's not good. Why? Because that grass belongs to whom? Everyone. So it belongs, right? To whom? To the city, to everyone, to nature. Right? So when you go to the forest, that tree, what does it belong to? It belongs to the forest maybe, or the nature. Nature means not the people, right? So we have an idea of nature. See, the idea we have, we as ignorant beings, I'm saying, we as ignorant beings, we have an idea of nature. What is nature? That is the owner, that is who all these trees belong to, that nature, right? So the trees belong to nature and the river belongs to nature. So that's why you should not put trash to the river. Because the trash, let's say trash is plastic, right? Is plastic nature? No, that is culture. Culture and nature are separate, isn't it? So putting trash into nature is not good. Why? Because plastic belongs to, I don't know, these are just views. Some people don't feel it like that because it's actually not real. German people think plastic is artificial, not natural. But a peel of a banana, that's very natural. So if you throw a peel of a banana far away into the grass, people will say, yeah, leave it, good, no problem. But if you take a piece of a bottle of soft drink bottle, or if you take a piece of plastic and you throw it far away into the same place, people say, don't you dare, go and pick it up. Are you crazy? Because one is culture, one is nature. Banana peel, nature. But piece of plastic, not nature, culture. So our nature in our mind is also an entity, a very separate entity, which is basically the owner of all the trees and forests and plants in this world. That's why what people try to do to enjoy their lives in Germany, for example, is they like to spend time in nature. So that means they don't like busyness, the sound of the cars, because that's not nature for them. And the smoking of the fumes and the what the cars, the pollution of the cars, they don't like that. They want to go somewhere where there's a river flowing and there's birds chirping, because that is where they feel that they are nature, because they feel that this is not nature, right? Otherwise, they should be able to sit with their chair in front of the street and say, great nature. But they can't relax with cars, right? They can't relax. Why? Because that is not nature for them. So, for the Buddha, everything is nature. Because at the end of the day, isn't everything nature? Isn't everything made out of carbons and electrons? Can't you see from what are artificial things made? Artificial things means, even this, isn't this artificial? We say it's artificial, but from what is it made? Ultimately, only from natural things. So we never put anything artificial in here to make this, right? All we really put in here was, at the end of the day, still natural things. I mean, wasn't there a time, a few hundred years ago, when no artificial things existed? Everything was natural. But if you have no artificial things, how is it that now there are? Because, in other words, if all you had were natural things, how can we have more than that now? How is it that our mind feels that there is more than natural things now? Do you understand? Now we come back to the discussion we had last week, right? When you take 3 pens, how is it that there is more than that now? Which is what? A triangle. How can 1 plus 1 plus 1 be 4? Or in other words, how can it happen that you take something natural, and you take something natural, and you take something natural, and then you have something more than natural, or better to say, artificial, right? So, another example. You take your shoes, and you walk in the nature, in the soil. When you go to the grass, and you see the soil, would you ever say, that soil is dirty? Do you consider grass dirty? No. So when you walk in the grass, are you picking up any dirt, or are you just picking up soil? What's on your shoes? Soil. So you picked up soil on your shoes. Now when you're going into the toilet, let's say you're going back to the... So in our monastery, there's sometimes at the beginning, a few years ago, when the paths were not made, there were paths we had to go through soil. And first we had to go through soil, or even when you walk barefoot, so you walk on soil, and then what do your foot pick up? Soil. Now you go to the toilet. What do you bring to the toilet? Your foot and soil. And what is there in the toilet? Usually on the ground, a lot of water. But now, when you step into the water, now suddenly we feel, who brought all this dirt here? Who brought the dirt? So then my question to you is, who brought the dirt? Because you never picked up dirt, you picked up soil, right? So then, is there really anything called dirt in the toilet? Can a toilet be dirty? Is the ground really dirty? Because we feel there's a lot of dirt. But see, water on the ground, and you step in with soil. So where did the dirt come from? Is this dirt? No. Is this dirt? What is the dirt? No dirt. Now the effect that we see or the way our mind perceives, that resulting effect is dirt. So the resulting effect, the way our mind perceives, is dirt. But what there is not is that there is something uniquely fixed, special, created called dirt. So actually the toilet is not dirty. It's just a lot of soil and water together, mixed together. There's nothing separate called dirt in this world. Similarly, a computer is not artificial in the sense that there is something specifically, separately called modern / artificial / cultural. Right? So it's still only nature, which means if you disassemble it into its parts, you're not going to find anything modern. Will you find anything modern when you disassemble a computer? I mean, if you disassemble it long enough, you will find what it has been made of. What has it been made of? Copper. Is copper modern or antique? Can't say. Is silver antique or modern? Sometimes you might say it's very antique because it's been lying there in this mountain for millions of years. So what is new? What new thing has been manufactured? I mean, when people look at a new car, what is really new about that car? The tires are made from maybe rubber. That rubber is not new, and it's especially not modern. So you see, modern is not. There's not such a thing called modern. Modern is an effect. It's a resulting effect. It's the way our mind perceives. There's no such a thing called modern in this world, or antique, or we can say, what was the other thing I said? Natural and artificial. So, and it brings us back to this biblical story, the other one where it says, ashes from ashes, dust to dust, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? So in the Christian tradition, what happens is, on one day in the year, the priest comes to the people who believe, and he's putting a cross out of ashes on their face and saying, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So to remind everyone that they are also going to go back to ashes one day. They came from the ashes and they went to the ashes. See, actually they are just like us, just like the Buddhists. They believe in this fake concept called impermanence. See, they also believe in impermanence, right? You are going to go back to the ashes. In other words, yes, everything is impermanent. You came from the ashes and you went into the ashes. But the Buddha wasn't there to, so that means, do we need the Buddha to point out the fact that we are all going back to ashes? Everyone knows that. The Buddha came to talk about the middle part. Right? So the middle part is, so this is ash. So where did you come from? You came from the ash. Actually, now we can even go into this direction, but we will have to go little. So you came from the ash, and where you will go? Where will you go? You will go to the ash. And here, what are you now? Here I am a very famous, I'm a very successful business person. I'm a very successful politician. I'm a very successful monk. I'm a mother. I'm a father. I'm a human. At least, can we agree on a human? Yes, I'm a human. So see, isn't this insanity? Isn't this a blasphemy of God? See, we are insulting God. Why? Because by simply saying, I'm a human. So I'm not nature, I'm not ash, I am more than ash. I'm at least a human, if not a grown-up human who's very well educated. So I know a lot, and I have so much properties, and I have so many important responsibilities, right? So in other words, we feel not like ash. When we look at this body, we don't feel this is ash reassembled. We feel there's more than ash here. Just like we feel that when you take natural things and you put them together, there's more than natural things. There's something artificial, or like the computer is not nature. That's why when you look outside, or normally when we look outside and we see a car, we can't relax in this environment just as much as when we go to a forest with trees, because this is not nature to us. The doot and the fumes, because we think there's more. There's a separate. This is very different from the nature, the trees and the birds and the bees and so on. But actually, if you do the car driving test, which I talked to you last week, right? So you take a bee and a tree and take a car, put them all together into a big container, right? And then smash it well. For a few hours, smash everything really well with a giant stomper. What will remain is going to be carbons, hydrogens, oxygens, and then will you be able to say this came from the bee? This is bee oxygen, or this is modern oxygen. This is natural oxygen. Is there something called modern oxygen? No, these are just carbons and oxygen. So you can't. So actually, all that you really have. So the bee never went out of the container, right? No bee came out of the container. No car came out of the container. Nothing modern left. Nothing natural left. So, however, you all have the same stuff. So you can take carbons and hydrogens, and you can make a car, or you can make a bee. You can't make it, right? This is the point. You can't make it. Create a separate thing called a bee, but you can arrange causes in a certain way, and an effect manifests. That is true. But you can never create more than what you put in. Right? So 1 + 1 + 1 is always 3. In other words, we are nothing more than the ash that we were at the beginning. We are still only ash. So we are not created humans. Human is an effect that's happening. It's the result and effect. So humaning happens. But this is not a thing, a one. This is a collection of causes. So this is what we have to understand. Because our mind, because of this jati, because of this avidya, right, because of this wrong view of ignorance, it has now started to believe that fixed entities exist. So in other words, I am a human, I am a man, I am a business person. See, the thing is, now the mind is like, it has started to fly. It's like when you start flying, the higher you fly means the more you will fall. So the higher you start flying, the more you will fall someday back to the ground. And then when you hit the ground, you will suffer a lot. As the higher you fly, the more you will suffer when you fall. So in other words, the more you start to believe that you are separate, the more, because that's what people always try to do. They want to be more and more separate. This is the desire of the mind, to feel separation. So in other words, I'm not just a human, I am a human who went to the Mount Everest and climbed the Mount Everest. See, I am not like you. You haven't done this, I have done this. So now I feel very special, but the thing is, the more that's feeling, you feed that feeling, the more you own basically. The more you own, the more you will have to suffer when you lose it, because it's never been yours. Nothing was ever yours, right? This body is not yours. This body is only an aggregation of energy. The experiences, you don't have even a past. You are not the owner of your memories. That's why you can't remember what you want to remember. Can you? Sometimes memories come which you don't want to come. So memories are not, and can you say that I will have them forever? I mean, why do people get Alzheimer's? So then, if they are the owners of their memories, they should be able to remember these memories whenever they want, but they can't. Because it's not something that happens when you want it to happen, it happens because the causes come together, right? So it doesn't matter whether you want it or not. When the causes are there, the effect will manifest. So it's never yours. So, but people think, I have these memories. And then when you can't use them anymore, in other words, when they are not longer there, then all the things we put into our house, which we think now we are the owner of them, see, we have to let it go of that. Because when you go back to ashes, whatever you have created additionally on top of that, for all of that you have to pay the price, which means you have to suffer. And for all of these things, you will have to do this all your life. Mental suffering was always there to maintain your feeling of specialness, because actually it belongs to God. So ignorance is this idea of separation or belonging. So now we have talked about belonging to some extent, and I'll write it down here. So this concept of belonging is at the root, is when this idea started to creep up in the mind that belonging is possible, which means it's actually the same thing as separation is possible, right? So when I told you, when I asked you who does this belong to, then you feel that this belongs to the school, which proves to you that you believe in this concept. And you feel this concept, right? Because that's when you feel shame, when you see your face in the mirror. Or pride. Both of these things come after the concept of belonging. Only when this is your face can the mind feel pride when it is something beautiful. Otherwise, you can't be proud. Because if it is only a beautiful face, can you be proud about a beautiful face? No. If it's my beautiful face, you can be proud. And can you be ashamed when you see an ugly face? It's an ugly face. Yeah, but if it's not yours, can you ever be shamed? No, then now you can understand why an Arahant or Arahant Terenohanse, man or woman, when they see their face, because they don't feel that it is my face, because it actually never was. It's not even yours right now, okay? But you feel that it is yours. But because they have realized and internalized the idea, the understanding of anicca, by looking into their face, they don't actually. When we say they're looking into their face, by looking at this mass of energy, which we call face, they don't feel that it's my face. So therefore, as ugly as it is, actually there's no such thing called ugly, as you have hopefully also understood by now. They don't feel any suffering or pride. That's why for them, they can only see ugly faces and beautiful faces, but they don't see this Mahatya's ugly face, this Mahatmya's beautiful face, because they don't feel that owners. So now we're going to explore this idea in one more example, the concept of belonging and why it's not true. So now I hope you can understand the example of the ashes to ashes. So it is only when we feel that we are more than ashes, that's when the sin happened. So the sin happened, God always said, you are God, you are me, you are paradise, and you can't be anything else. But when Adam and Eve started to feel like, no, we are actually more than ashes. So this is where the chitta, when this chitta starts to think, I am not a chitta, I am a person, I am there always, I am not nature, I'm a special one. When it has actually left the Garden of Eden, right? Because it feels that at least here I'm more than that. I'm a businessman, I'm a mother. So the mind can start to believe this, but the reality is, no, you are not more than this. You're still only that. As well as suffering is what you can get as a result. These sufferings will come when you start to feel you are more than that, because now you can die. See, I explained this last week to you how only when you believe that I gave you a triangle. Only when you believe that I gave you a triangle can you feel that this triangle has died when you were driving in the car. Right? So if I give this to you and you start to believe that you got a triangle, now when you drive your car and you come to your home, now you'll start to feel, oh, my triangle, it has been destroyed. But if you realize that I never gave you a triangle, but only 3 pens in the form of a triangle, or with the help of which, when they are arranged in this way, a perception of a triangle manifests, which means there's a feeling of a triangle in the mind, a mental feeling right now, but no triangle is here, then you won't be able to talk about death even. Even death is not real, as I said last week, because all that happened is you got 3 pens and 3 pens are still there, but their arrangement has changed. So nothing happened, right? So even death. See, in this paradise you can't die. It's eternal. It's eternal life. But in the ones that we are, so we have to die. Not actually. You are actually eternal. If you realize Anicca, you are eternal. That means not that there's a soul within you which is going to live forever and you are going to exist forever as a person, not like that. But you are nothing more than effect. And effect is not something that exists as in fixed. It's a manifestation. But this world, nature and energy which arranges in certain ways, that is something timeless, and you can't talk about birth and death in that reality. So an electron, it's not die. Nothing really dies when you die. Actually, at the end of the day, only an electron or a proton moves an inch to one side. I mean, they're already moving right now, and that's what they keep doing, but I think we're going to explore this more. Death is only when a mental line, a line that we drew in our head, in our mind, when this is, let's say, crossed. So I'll try to explain this. So I think we have still 10 minutes, good 15 minutes. Simple example. And we're going to explore this more in the weeks after, but let's say we are going to buy a car. See, this is how we usually think. I don't have a car right now, so I go to the shop, and let's say we have the money. We have all the money that we need to buy this car. Now, let's say there's a car. So when we go to the shop, and we are shown this car, so we are looking at a car. Before you buy it, can you drive it? No, right? You can't drive it. So who can drive this car before you buy it? Let's say you're not going to a shop, let's say you're buying it from another person. Let's say like second hand, you want to buy a car from another Mahatya who's living down the street. So he's showing you the car. Look at this car. This is how it is, and this is how he can drive. So who can drive this car? The other person. So this is you. So I'm making it a bit more nicer. And then let's say, what do we call this man? Any ideas? Let's say Niemand. So I will just call it N in the future. So who can drive this car? So before you buy it, let's say before he hands over the keys to you, who can drive it? He can. So before the keys are in your hands, who can drive it? The other man, Mr. N. Why? Well, because he is the owner, right? He's the owner. So it is because he's the owner that he can drive his car. And you can't drive this car. Why? Because you are not the owner. See, I'm making it so simple because I want you to understand whether that's really true. Now, this is how we feel the world, right? Good. Now when you get the keys, when he passes the keys over to you, the moment you have the keys in your hand and you pay the money, what do you feel now? If I ask you the same question again, who can drive it now? Me. Now I can drive it, and who can't drive it? Him. So I mean, I have to be really, really careful with the words, because I'm writing here deliberately, the keys are in your hand, because actually nothing happened more than that. nothing ever happened more than keys were given to you. But we'll come there. So now the keys are in your hands. What do you feel? Who can drive it? Now me. So I write down you. Why? Because I am the owner. This is clear separation, right? There's clear separation here because he can drive this car and you can't. There's a clear separation between you both in each case. That is what we call Anicca. But let's think about it now, what the Buddha tried to explain us. Anicca means Hetu Paticca Sambhutang. Hetu Paticca Sambhutang means when the causes come together, the effect manifests. So that means, simply spoken, is it really true that whoever is the owner of the car is the one who can drive it? That means no one else can drive this car? No, because driving happens when the causes come together. So what are the causes for driving? Well, whoever has the keys in his hand, if he goes to the car and he opens the car, he'll drive. So, simply spoken, whoever has the keys is going to drive. Or in other words, driving will happen when the causes come together. So, that means, of course, just because you have the keys in your hand doesn't mean you're going to be able to drive. This is just one of the causes. First, you must go to the car. These causes should also come together. The car should open up, right? So that must happen. And even if there's a security system which is checking your face, actually it's not checking whether it is you, it is just checking whether this is the pattern that it can recognize. It doesn't check you. That's why let's say it's taking your fingerprint. Even when it's taking the fingerprint, you can fake it. So the reason why you can fake it is because the machine really doesn't care who it is, and it's only checking the pattern. So the machine opens for the right pattern, not for the right person. Does that make sense? So when does the car open? For the right key, right? The car door opens when the key is right. It doesn't open for you or me or for the owner or anything like that. And similarly, even a fingerprinting machine doesn't open for you also. See, if I take your finger away and what we call I give you another finger, because let's say maybe you lost your finger in an accident, so I'm giving you the finger of another person. See, you can try as much as you want to put this finger on your car with your fingerprint. Your car will not open because it doesn't care whether it is you or who it is. It cares only if this pattern is correct. That is what matters. So in other words, simply spoken, when the owner has the key in his hand, whoever has the key and all the other causes, when they come together, driving will happen. So even he has the key in his hand, he's only going to be able to drive with it when he can go there and open the car. The same happens for you. So this ownership here, actually, what does it really do? What does it really influence? Just because you are the owner, what happens? So now you bought this car and you are the owner. So then what will happen now? So are you going to be able to drive with it tomorrow because you are the owner? No, because tomorrow driving will happen when the causes come together. So if tomorrow you are still alive and still have the keys and the car is still parked in front of your door, driving will happen. But until that moment, you can't say anything. And if another person takes the car keys, can't he also just go to the car and open the car and drive it? Right. So that what can anyone else in this world intrinsically do less than what you can do? Even when you are the so-called owner. He can do everything just as much as you can. So actually, that means, see, just because the car owner, just because Mr. Nimanta has this car, what can he do with the car more than you? Can he go there and open it whenever he wants to? No, he can't. Because this man is just like you. It's just an effect of causes. So just because he wants to open the car, he can't do that. First, all the causes should come together. The body and the key will be with you as long as the causes are there. So, for example, somebody might want to steal it from you. Now you can try to keep it with you. How can you defend your car key? Well, you can take it and you can put it into your fist. Is that something that you can do? Can you close your fist? Is that something you can do? Because even your fist is not yours. See, the nerves which are pulling this arm and keeping this hand with you, all these are nature, God. See, can you move your fist when you want to? Can you do this whenever you want to? No. These are also happenings, nature, because this hand is not yours. Otherwise, you'd be able to do this whenever you want to. But you can't. That's why sometimes when you work, sometimes in the past, I used to do a lot of heavy work with my hands. Sometimes you can't even do this. Because it doesn't matter whether you want to do this or not. It matters only whether the causes are there. So even when you can do it, even when it happens, even right now, you might think, I can do it right now. No, you can't do it right now. Even right now, it only happens because of the causes, not because you can do it. So this concept of I can do it, I can't do it is a fallacy. Right? So you can't move your body, even right now. Moving happens. So then we cannot say that in a few years' time, you will no longer be able to move your body, because you have never been able to move it. It happened because of the causes, and it's not happening when the causes are not there. So right now, that is what happens. It always happens when the causes are there, and it doesn't happen when the causes are not there. So in other words, the point we have to understand, Mr. Nimanta, he really gave you only the keys. That happened. And that's why when you go to the car with the keys, you will be able to drive it at that moment, in this instance, in this one particular event. Because now the causes have come together. But we don't feel like that. For us, we feel that with the keys which you got on your hand, what happened? You became the owner of this car. So that means from now onwards, I will be the one who can use this whenever I want. But that never happened. And why? Because can you really? So now you're driving home, you're putting your car in front of your house, and you feel, and you're looking down, you're looking outside, and you see, my new car. So you feel that this car is really mine, and the others are not. And tomorrow I'm going to be driving to work. Are you sure? No. If you are the owner, you should be able to say that you can. You should be able to. You should have a security. But all that really happened is, this car was never yours, which I'm not saying that it was Mr. Nimante's also, right? I'm saying there was a car, and there's a key, and what you got was the key, and now, because of the coming together of car and key and you and driving happened, and fuel and other things, driving happened. Now that happened, and now the car is next to your house. Not yours. It's still only a car. It's not someone's car. And it's only a key, not your key. That is what happened. So you have not become an owner of anything. Which is why tomorrow is going to happen, whatever the causes then are going to, however the causes come together tomorrow, that's what's going to happen. So if nature decides for another person to take this key, he can drive it just as much. So it's not actually, so that means when you understand this concept, there's no such thing called stealing. Stealing doesn't happen in nature. Stealing is simply causes come together and in effect manifest. So what happens is, stealing makes only sense if you are now the owner and somebody takes it while you are the owner. Right? When you feel that you are the owner, if somebody takes it, now you feel it's stealing. But if you have never become the owner, if you are not the owner, if it's just a car and driving happened, then we are all the same. Yes, the car is in your house. Actually, it's not your house. And it's not with you, it's just very close to you, right? Is this duster with me and it's not with you? See, is this pen with me and it's not with you? No, it's just 10 centimeters away from me and 80 centimeters away from you, or 5 meters away from you. But it's not with me as well. See, I can't just use this because it's with me. It's just close to me, and because of causes in this moment, it's not mine or with me. But our mind has these separations, right? So I think, so in Anicca, we would simply say, who can drive? When Mr. Nimanta had the keys, who could drive the car? Well, whoever has the keys and goes to the car and opens it. Because when the causes come together, the effect manifests. When you have the keys in your hand, does that mean that you are now the one who can drive and no one else? No. At the end of the day, whoever has the keys in his hand and is going to the car, he'll be able to drive it. So the car doesn't open for the owner. It opens only for the right key. So, understanding that we are all the same. There's no difference between, this car doesn't belong to anyone. This is only a feeling in our minds. It's nothing more than that. And how this principle can be extended to understand the whole world, I'm going to explain you next few weeks. This is a simple example, but the idea of Anicca is there to make us understand that this is not my car. This is just a car. Our mind feels it's my car, but in reality it's just a car. So you didn't buy a car, it didn't become yours. What happened is, you drove a car from A to B, and now the keys are in your house. Nothing became yours. So if you see the world like this, then you know that only thing that happened was an event happened. I drove a car from A to B, and the keys are in my house. In my house also no. In this house are these keys. Then if tomorrow morning you wake up and the keys are no longer there, what happened really? Well, somebody took the keys and drove the car. What happened there? Is that something bad? Is that something wrong? Somebody took or better to say, the keys were taken and the car was driven. So what is wrong with that? That is what happened in reality. But what happened in our mind? My car was taken, my keys were taken, and somebody drove with my car. See, this is the insult to God. Actually, the insult to God didn't happen when somebody stole it. The insult to God happened when you're given the keys and you started to feel that mine. Or we can even say the insult started to happen even when you went to this man and you felt it's his, because it's not even his. Because the whole concept of mine and not mine is utter fallacy. It doesn't exist in reality. That's what I'm trying to say. Reality has only events, happenings, because of necessity, what we will call dukkha. So we'll discuss this more, but I hope you can understand where we're going. So whether you can understand this example of the car, or whether the things I explained to you before, where we're talking about ashes to ashes and the triangle and the thing we talked about last week, car driving test. See, I hope that this makes sense to you, that there's something true about this here. And don't worry, we are going to talk about this until the end of time. Until you come here and until a monk will sit here, we will talk about this until you understand this, because once you understand this, you can free yourself from all suffering whatsoever in your mind. In order to understand these concepts, you need to do merits. And to finish the question, why Nibbana? When this bus driver, when as a bus driver you can take this lady and you can see, okay, she has this body because she wants to experience separation. There's a mind which wants to experience separation, which wants to exist, which wants to experience this pleasurable world. And for this, the price we have to pay is all this maintenance. So what you can wish yourself and all beings. See, if we are all here, beings suffering from raga, desha, moha, and then we are all in the same boat. So we can always wish, may we all be able to go back to real paradise. Which means, where we don't have to maintain anything anymore, where we don't have to face this vexation in our minds anymore, where all the maintenance stops, which means Nibbana. Why? Because it's Raga Kayo, Desha Kayo, Moha Kayo. Because when these three things happen, your mind will be serene. There's nothing you need to maintain for your mind to be at peace. And when you pass away, you will not be born with a new body where you'll have to do these things again. And then you are completely free from all problems. See, the Buddha today, he's not missing anything out, because there's nothing to miss really in this world, because everything is the same, right? Everything is the same. So, just the last example, see, our mind, when we go to the supermarket and we buy chicken and we eat chicken, we think that chicken was good, but tomorrow I want to go back there again to see what other things are there that can be eaten, right? So why do we want to come back in this journey of samsara? Because we think that there are other things, more things to experience, right? You will only go to the supermarket twice if first time, if there's at least two things to buy, or if you want more of the first thing. Right? But if you had chicken, you will only go there to buy bread if you think that bread and chicken is not the same. But when you realize, or when a chitta realizes that everything in this world is the same, then why do you want to experience anything anymore? What's the point of going to the supermarket if bread and chicken are the same things? If there's no intrinsic difference between them, it just looks different, but it's the same causes. You can do the car driving test, as I explained. There's no point in going to the supermarket twice, because all you put into your fridge anyway was only carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, lipids, fats. These three things. Sometimes in the form of a chicken, sometimes in the form of a chocolate. But there was no chocolate, there was no chicken. And what you can buy in the supermarket is only one thing. And you have only put one thing into the fridge. But when you looked at it, you think you have put lots of different things into your fridge. But nothing like that happened. So when you realize that, going to the supermarket becomes a really boring thing. For an Arahant, it's very boring because there's only one food there. Not even food. It's not even food actually, it's just energy. But simply spoken, then journey of samsara ends. Okay, that's it. Yeah, way over past the times. Let's share our merits. So understanding this, understanding the value of Nibbana, what we have to do is we need to make this heartfelt wish concerning our own journey as well as others, that with all the power of all the merits we have done, and whenever we see others, we wish them the real paradise. Because when you see that we are all stranded in this pit where we have to do all these where we experience these three dukkhas, maintenance of so many things, you want to wish them to be free from that. There's no one you can actually be jealous about in this world. The only person you can be a little bit jealous about is an Arahant, because he has no raga desha moha, but he has still a body to carry around. So this is something not to be jealous about. Okay. First and foremost, let us take a moment to transfer all the merits we have acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting, by inviting the Swami Nahanse to deliver the sermon, by offering flowers, oil lamps, incense sticks, and water to the infinite virtues of the Lord Buddha, by listening to the sermon and contemplating on the sermon. First and foremost, let us take a moment to transfer these merits to all the bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, upasakas, upasikas who since time immemorial have protected the sublime teachings of the Buddha and have passed it down to the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available today to study, understand, and comprehend the Dhamma. Let's also take a moment to transfer the merits to all members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all of the chapters, who have dedicated their lives towards the noble path and have committed themselves towards the betterment of all sentient beings. Let us not forget that among them are the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries who've always been by your side. Through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also transfer these merits to Guru Swami Nahanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery, as well as the Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let's also transfer these merits and express our gratitude to all those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these sermons, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. If any of them have been born in the woeful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer the merits to each and everyone who was involved in organizing and making these events possible. The staff from the school, as well as each and everyone who has lifted even a finger for the support of these events. And let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our devotees friends of the monastery who, for the sake of merits, continue to stay in the Mahasangha. May all of them, through the power of these merits, be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employers, employees, and to all those who've helped us, supported us and assisted us in this infinite long journey of samsara, including our teachers. May through both these merits, they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakra Deva as well as all the numerous gods and deities who are committed to protect and fulfill the Sambuddhasasana. Let's also transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May through the power of these merits, they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also take a moment to transfer these merits to our ancestors, to all those who have predeceased us, all those who have been family and friends to us in this infinitely long journey of samsara. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the armed forces as well as the police forces who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost their lives in the war, be they friend or foe, rejoice in the merits we've acquired today. Let's also transfer these merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities, such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, and pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who've been family and friends to us in this journey of samsara. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful plane, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let us all resolve that may, through the power and blessings of all the merits we've acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahants on this blessed land. And finally, let us all resolve that may, through the power of all the merits we've acquired today, you and I and everyone who has helped to make this program a success, become an Aratanahans and Aratmihinanans in this very life itself, and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now the Mahasangha will transfer their blessings to you. Raga ginin midatva, dvesha ginin midatva, moha ginin midatva, Nibbana parama sukhayan, Sukhita taravatva. Nibbana parama sukhayan, Sukhita taravatva. Mamada siyalo loka, siyalo satvayo. Nibbana parama sukhayan, Sukhita taravatva. Nibbana parama sukhayan, Sukhita taravatva. Nibbana parama sukhayan, Sukhita taravatva. Raga gini niveva, dvesha gini niveva, moha gini niveva, nivan sapala beva, nivan sapala beva, nivan sapala beva. Tunurvangi Suisi Ananta Mahaguna Bilin Siyalu Lok Siyalu Satyo Nibbana Paramasukhin Sukhitaravetta. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.